and thank you for being with us. My name is Lillian Muli. Citizen Weekend continues, and tonight our topic of discussion is the rise of extortion through social media, which is now being used as a medium to humiliate victims by either leaking nudes, explicit videos, or screenshots of WhatsApp messages. Extortionists prefer people in the limelight, case in point politicians, pastors, celebrities, etc. These extortionists have formed the habit of maligning their victims in the pursuit of making quick money. They peddle false claims by blackmailing them through defamatory online campaigns that are actually propelled through fraudulently acquired online numbers and fake accounts. And as we observe this trend, the most recent incident was that of Deputy Governor Kirinyaga, who fell victim to extortionists and whose video went viral on social media. With me in studio this evening as we look into this topic is Philip Ogola, who is a digital humanitarian. I'm also joined by Steve Ogola, who is a lawyer, as we look at what the law says about extortionists and indeed cybercrime and cyberbullying. And we're also joined by Simon Anyona, who is a sociologist. Thanks for joining us, gentlemen. I'll start with you, Simon, and particularly looking at the fact that people are even thinking along these lines. People are taking advantage of unsuspecting victims to either record them or take photos of them or even take screenshots of WhatsApp messages. What exactly is happening and what's this trend about?
Thank you. I think this is the outcome of something that has happened within our society, where across all age groups, you find that people are becoming increasingly susceptible to casual, illicit, and quick sex. So what is happening is that now there are people who have found a way of cashing in on this illicit relationships, casual sex, and then comes up now the issue of extortion. And those categories of people that you mentioned are just some of them. You mentioned about pastors, you mentioned about popular politicians and others, but we have a lot of professionals, middle and high level managers who have fallen victim to these extortion schemes, and not just through the social media. Social media is just the easy way to go about it. There are even other technical dimensions where they are threatened by accusations or with accusations of things like rape, and others. And so this is it is something that is deeply entrenched, and this group of people is a group of people, and they even have a name now. They're called stingers. They target people, they know who to target, and they know that the risk to exposure for this kind of person, because of his position in society, because of the position he holds in a certain organization or company, that his risk to exposure is extremely detrimental to his character and to his other elements of his life, like his family, the community, and society. And so
shouldn't such influential people then be aware of falling victim to such cartels or to such people? Bearing in mind that you carry such responsibility, then shouldn't the onus then be on you as an individual to be more careful?
Well, I wouldn't say they are careless, because these are things that happen as part of the day-to-day normal lives. People meet at functions, people become friends, people develop relationships, but out of these relationships, one of the parties knows exactly what they're doing. They're not in it for the relationship, they are in it to get evidence that they can use to threaten or extort money from this other person. So one of the parties is totally oblivious of what is going on, but the other one usually knows exactly what they have schemed to do. And I will tell you that this scheme runs far and deep, because it even involves other bodies established for various purposes, including the police, including some of the hospitals that people go to report to. They are involved in these extortion schemes. Lawyers, and I apologize to my friend, but
he'll have his time
he
to
will have
respond
his say,
to that,
yes.
yeah.
But even lawyers are part of this scheme. It is a scheme that involves a highly intricate network of people. So, for instance, if somebody goes out on a date with a high-level manager of this large corporate organization, and that date ends up with things happening, then the following morning they will be quick to go and report to the police about an alleged rape.
Yeah.
They will obtain papers from the police station. They will quickly go to a hospital, and there are hospitals that are known to actually be very, very sensitive to these matters. And some of them being, I will not mention names, but we know them. They are known that they have a certain level of interest in such cases, and they will provide all the information that is required, and they go. The next stop would probably be to a lawyer to actually file papers, charges in court, and then to the police station to enforce on threats. And even
so it's a wider scheme than just me and you. It might involve other parties as well. Okay,
it does involve other parties.
I will get back to you, Philip. To you, bloggers and gutter press, and the fact that these extortionists or the blackmailers usually will threaten the victim that if you do not cough up, then your photos are going to be all over social media tomorrow, your story is going to be all over the gutter press tomorrow. So it's not just about mainstream media. We're looking at a whole new dimension. The lack of verification of these stories on social media, the fact that, I mean, this is arguable. Do they actually verify these stories? Do they verify their sources before they actually splatter all this information? Case in point, the Deputy Governor Kirinyaga, we saw this story go viral even before the parties had a chance to explain or to report this matter to the police.
Yeah. I think I'll speak first on the digital front. I think right now there are cartels which actually use ransomware, where they actually get your data, which they leak to either bloggers or people who are actually online.
What do you mean data?
So, like, let's say I'm a lawyer and I have and Steve is my competitor. I can leak his information just to actually malign his name. It's actually happening. So half the information which is actually online is actually from competitors. So you'll find probably if I have issues with you, or I want to, or even in relationships, you can actually have girls who are like they're looking at you. Your marriage is flourishing and everything. So they'll find something to actually ruin your name. So I think my advice.
So you're actually saying a lot of the hate that we're seeing, a lot of the slander, defamation that we're seeing is actually out of people wanting to settle scores?
Yes, some of them are well orchestrated. Actually, if you look at some of this, you'll just find it's out of malice.
But how is it well orchestrated for somebody to be caught in the act, a married person
that
to
is
be
different.
caught? Yeah,
that is different. For sex bit, I think people are adults. I think if you're a celebrity or a politician, I think it's high time to actually take caution. Because nowadays, there's in the online circles, actually, there's a group of, I can say gang, who actually will do anything just to like blackmail you.
Yeah.
And they're actually easy. They're easy praise. They'll bait you. There are people who actually bait you online. They'll actually entice you with sexually stuff. So if you fell for the bait, and nowadays, even on WhatsApp, that chatting alone people can actually take screenshots. So I'll suggest people actually take caution. It's a matter of common sense. Like if you're going to have sex with someone, if you make sure it actually take precaution.
Yeah.
Don't leave any loose ends. And in this day and age, people actually why would you record yourself?
Yeah.
Why would you take nude photos?
But then again, I might just be the victim of somebody having planted a camera, and then there's that. So you can never really be too safe.
I think right now, I think there's also a gang where also people actually also plant cameras.
Plant cameras.
Yeah.
Okay. And as we continue with this, Steve, in terms of the law and what it says about the use of information that is likely to have detrimental effect on the affected person if shared with third parties, specifically to extort money. If the blackmail is between me and the blackmailer, if I'm the victim and you're the blackmailer, then that is between the two of us. But the minute it takes a whole new dimension of the threat of these videos or pictures to go online, what does the law specifically say about this?
Thank you, Lillian. Let me talk about the remedial measures, I think is what you're asking about, because I think my two co-panelists have discussed the issues around them, but now what is the next step in law? This is basically about unlawful use of information. And let me limit myself now for this segment to extortion. Extortion happens at two levels. There is extortion which the law disallows. All forms of extortion have been disallowed by the law. The first level is the kind of extortion where you know that someone has committed a criminal offense, but it's only known to you perhaps exclusively, so you want to use that to get money in order not to report. That itself is an offense under section 300 of the Penal Code. The person can self-report, and then you'll be arrested for attempting to extort money. Now, the case that you're discussing now, like the DG, the Deputy Governor, is the extortion for something that does not disclose a criminal offense, but which may be detrimental to the person concerned if the information is shared. So it causes anxiety because of the possible humiliation, embarrassment that comes with that kind of information sharing. That has been disallowed also by the Constitution and the law. If you look at the proposed law, the Computer and Cybercrimes Bill, it's a very important law that regulates will regulate online sharing of information, responsible reporting. That law, for purpose of illustration, section 16, which talks about cyberbullying, it says, if you use information which you know is detrimental to someone to repeatedly make demands from that person to give you money or any other form of benefit, then you commit an offense. And the penalty is heavy. It's 20 million.
Who bears responsibility
Now,
for the defamation, though?
Of course, you see now, I'm talking about the person sending the messages, repeated messages, that if you don't give me the money, I'm going to take action, I will leak the video. Let it be known to Kenyans. You may do that for your own amusement, for threats, for whatever reason, but know that the consequences are grave. You run the risk, if arrested and arraigned in court, convicted, to be fined 20 million or 10 years imprisonment.
So in
you
this
can
case,
see the heavy response.
Yeah, in this case, what should have been the immediate reaction, or what should be the immediate reaction of the person that finds themselves victim to this blackmail?
If you find yourself in such a situation, one, report the police, and two, seek legal assistance, because the lawyer will help you frame the question and advise you on the possible intervention and the pathway to those interventions. Now,
But by this time, sorry to interrupt you, Steve, by this time, as you're seeking, the help of a lawyer and the police, you are actually being threatened that your pictures could go viral, or your videos, or your messages could go viral any minute. So you really don't have the luxury of time.
innovation is the solution. And how would you innovate around that circumstance? If I was in that circumstance, I would negotiate for purpose of defining this man, say, can we meet tomorrow at 11? Then I would instruct a lawyer immediately to go to court the next day to extract an order prohibiting you, because I've communicated, as I'll cite you in those court papers, from publishing information that is injurious to me. Then when you meet the next day, I serve you with that court order. Of course, even if without the court order, even if you go ahead and publish that information or share it, one, it discloses an offense itself, as I've already stated, and two, you run the risk that other than missing the money that you want, that you may suffer more financial loss, because then once you are subjected to the rigorous legal process, you may now end up to be the person now compensating the target. So let the public know.
So you're advising that don't fall prey, don't give any money.
You shouldn't. You see, the thing is this: for every grievance, there is a remedy. Anything that makes you feel anxious as a person, and the law and common sense are inextricably linked. If I do something to you, Lillian, that makes you feel anxious, surely, as sure as the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, there must be a remedy. Ask a lawyer to locate that remedy for you and the urgent next step. But do not fall prey, because if you fall victim and you become complacent, then in terms of disengaging yourself from that process, the law also will say, at the level of defense, you say, well, you played along, you paid money. So then to come back and say that there was extortion, I was lied to, so you need to stop. Not communicate, but you can lure that person and say, okay, fine, I hear you. Can we meet tomorrow at 2 p.m.? Between this evening and 2 p.m. tomorrow, seek legal assistance, advice, and report the matter to the police.
Although they rarely give you the luxury of dictating your own terms. Usually you'll be told within an hour, and maybe this is what I see in the movies, but I don't think...
But I also want to sensitize the public that, first of all, the targeted groups, the elite, the important people, the politicians, pastors, lawyers, and other people. Listen, the default, as we say, the default in this world, the default is evil. So you shouldn't be afraid at all that somebody may try to extort money from you. Somebody may try to malign your name. If a day ends without somebody trying to attempt to injure your reputation, go home, thank God, be happy. But if somebody threatens you, let them go ahead. You will meet them. There must be a remedy, even if that remedy is now consequential. So subsequently, let it be so. But you can try to graduate the response, the reaction, moderate the reaction, deferring them to the next day. If they release the information like that, so be it, there'll be remedial measures later.
And we've got so much to cover, so let's move this along, and please keep your answers brief. To you, Simon, looking at society and looking at love triangles and what have you, particularly in the case where there's two consenting adults, both may be married. So when a spouse walks in, and we've had cases of crimes of passion because you walked in on your wife with a gentleman, why punish the other unknown or intruding party, and yet your wife, in this case, let's give a hypothetical situation. This is your wife. You've walked in on her with another gentleman, a gentleman that's unknown to you or that you've been suspecting has been having an affair with your wife. So why then punish this other intruder or the gentleman, and yet your wife knowingly got into this union? She's a consenting adult, and I'm talking about this in terms of the invasion of privacy. These are both consenting adults.
Yes, right. Maybe I might surprise you by another aspect to these extortion schemes, in that some of these incidences that you see are not purely random and cases of being caught. Some of them are very well orchestrated schemes, even between husband and wife, where the wife is they agree that you go and entice so and so, keep me updated on where you're going, and then at the convenient moment, the husband shows up wielding all sorts of crude weapons with a gang, threatening to do all sorts of things, all in the name of now looking for a way of settling this here and now. And the always easiest and most convenient way is to paying these people off so that they leave you and go home. So these schemes are not entirely, it is not always random and cases of people being caught. Some of them are very well orchestrated. But when you look at now things to do with love triangle, the risk is what triggers people to actually start considering options of bailing out, such as paying. And the amounts that people demand are hefty. They are not in tens of thousands, they are in hundreds of thousands, and sometimes in some instances, depending of course on the character and the individual in question, they even run into millions. Money that is paid in cash so that you can settle matters here and now.
Does it ever end there though? The minute you, like I put to Steve, the minute you actually give this money, does it end there?
No, it rarely ends there. And in fact, in the case, I don't know, I'm not privy to the details of the recent incident, but I could tell you that it gets to a point where now they have extorted and extorted again and come back again and come back again, and they just keep coming until there's no satisfying them, until you get to that point where you say, now do what it is that you need to do. Yes, but that said, is that in the first instance, what you're trying to save will eventually come out. If it is your character, it will eventually come out. And so it is important for people to actually face up to their problems. If you're caught up in a situation, look for the right ways of addressing that situation, rather than trying to get easy ways to bail out.
Case in point, a high-profile comedian who was once victim to this, and he actually came out and said, look, this is what happened, because I think it got to a point where it was just too much. So, Steve, in the case of a hotel, and in this case where this video was recorded within a hotel, where these two consenting adults have gone in, probably given their details and reserved a room there, does the hotel take responsibility in such a case where you've gone into this facility and you feel, you believe you're safe there, and then something like this happens? Does the hotel bear responsibility?
Certainly the hotel must bear responsibility because of the contractual obligation between the hotel and the client. Once, if you're in a room for whatever purpose, I'm not talking about the moral question, I'm talking about the legal question, the contractual obligation between the client and the management. You pay your money, you get access to your hotel room. For the period that you've paid for that room, there shouldn't be unauthorized access. Authorization of access is not determined on the hotel management, it depends on the client. Would you like room service? Yes or no? There's a guest here at the reception looking for you. So I don't think
you're talking about high-profile hotels, right?
This
what
is
if
the
it's
law.
a CD joint somewhere downtown?
You see, part of our role as lawyers is to promote civic education. Whatever, whether the room is 500, 1,000, 10,000, 30,000, just that because some hotels attract the elite doesn't make them to have a higher legal obligation than cheaper hotels. The fact is this: you have a contract, you've breached. There's a serious breach of contract. The right to privacy, quiet and peaceful enjoyment of that facility for the duration paid for must never be interfered with.
Yeah.
Of course, if it is interfered with, depending on the level of reputational injury to the client, they can sue this hotel. You know, sometimes why people don't take action against suing this hotel, because the unintended consequences that, because Kenyans, we are also duplicious in a way that in other aspects of governance, we are happy to condone corruption, but in other aspects of morality, we amplify other things. So it'll be said, why are you suing a hotel? What are you doing there with the woman in the first place? So the fear of exposing yourself to ridicule and scrutiny is what may make these people not sue the hotel. But in terms of a legal remedy, yes. And I think I've given the default statement is this: anything that gives you anxiety, anything that makes you feel aggrieved, surely there must be a remedy. It is for you to determine whether you want to activate that remedy or not.
Okay. And Philip, now to you on online safety. Somebody here is saying we get a bit jittery about social media with its disparaging and extortionist schemes used to harass innocent Kenyans of means. Unfortunately, we expose ourselves too much, leaving so little to privacy. And therefore, a lot of people concerned about their online safety, their online privacy. Is there anything that, and not just high-profile individuals, but is there anything we can do as a society to protect ourselves from such schemes?
I think the rule of the thumb on digital space is before you post anything, think thrice. As in, because once you post it, you have no control how it goes viral. I think it just the social media space is just common sense. And the biggest mistake we made, and especially Kenyans, when you are online, do you use the digital space to get information or give information? We give so much information online where we actually become vulnerable.
Let's zero in on the extortionists. What to do if you're threatened that if you don't respond in a certain way financially, that your photos are going to go viral, your video will be leaked. What should be the immediate response of the victim?
The victim first should actually go report. You actually need to go report, and I think Steve Ogolach said that. Get an OB and also get a lawyer. I think bulk of cases actually which are online, people don't report.
So I report, but this video has already been circulated on WhatsApp.
I think.
So it's still, it might not be on social media per se, but it's exchanging hands on WhatsApp.
As Kenyans, we've given these extortionists, power. Because Kenyans have this habit of sharing forward as received. That should be stopped. Before you share anything, I think first point of call should be, is this, whoever sent it, just question the guy. Why are you sending this? And I think we have this habit where we use social media as a justice, where we want to flag things on Facebook or on Twitter or anything. There are legal ways, and I think people don't explore the legal ways to actually go to report the police. And even nowadays, you can actually follow someone to find where the posters were actually. People can actually have fake accounts where they can actually open a fake account to actually post stuff about you. They can be traced. There's no privacy nowadays.
And is there a way, for instance, we talk about our children growing up in this online space, in this digital space, and coming across, for instance, nudes of their mothers or explicit videos. Is there a way that this can actually be retracted from that online space? Once it's there, is it there for life?
It's there for life. And I think this is to all the viewers. The internet it has a very long memory. What you do today, 10 years actually come and haunt you. So I think the generation today, we have a very sharp generation. Kenyans are very sharp, very tech innovative, but we are cyber foolish. When it comes to cyber stuff, we are foolish. People record themselves and store on their phones. Nowadays, there are apps. Like one way to stem extortionist is to have an antivirus on your phone. How many people actually buy antivirus? I'll even challenge you guys. How many have actually bought an antivirus on their phones?
What does the antivirus do in such a case?
It actually scans your phone, and there are those apps which mine your data. It actually staves off that. And in some instances, it helps spoof your location. And I think most guys don't know that these free apps actually gather a lot of content. Those photos you take are actually stored online. So it will be key to actually avoid a situation where there'll be an extortion scheme. So one, avoid taking photos of yourself, avoid storing photos on your phone or your laptop.
What life is that? Avoid taking photos of yourself.
No, nude photos.
Of a certain nature.
Of a certain nature.
If I could just input on that to the public, this issue of forwarded as received, shared as received, before you press the share button, be advised that is not a defense if whatever you are sharing will occasion reputational injury or a serious breach to privacy. Look at what the Constitution says. Article 31 says it prohibits someone from sharing information about personal life, family, or their private affairs with a third party or the public. There is no excuse in law for saying, yes, I've received an offensive video about him, Gola, and I'm sharing it forwarded as received.
Although that's become Kenyan,
yes, it has
become a Kenyan culture.
And we must desensitize each other and out of that habit, because you continue with it as a Kenyan, fine, but the day you are isolated for legal action, you will incur costs of legal representation, and legal representation in this country is quite expensive. You will suffer loss, and that's when you learn a lesson. So take this as an opportunity.
Final question to you, Steve. The question is, and that's coming in, you can't sue everybody. You can't take everybody to court. And therefore, when these videos go viral, how do you actually pin it down to one individual and say, this is the person that's been circulating these messages? This is the person. So how do you know who to punish? How do you know who is responsible?
The law on regulation of online usage is there. There has to be responsible reporting, responsible online engagement or activity, and responsibility is individual. So I can select whom to go with. Even the trouble of being dragged in court. You know, people hide under the sanctity of group. It's going viral. You know, we have this mentality that once it's being shared, we can continue sharing it without any sense of responsibility or accountability. That's a false entitlement. It's a false protection. Because the moment you're isolated and asked, why have you shared information that is injurious to me? Did you have an opportunity to consult me, you know, to have input before you share that? Or because of excitement, social media excitement, you want to be seen as the one to break the news? This idea of breaking news before everyone gets it. You know, I was giving an example earlier that I was in a wedding today. Of course, I took a 30-second recording. I'm not allowed to share that video online, because the moment the bride and the groom see the video, a short recording of their dancing neatly, they'll say, but no, we invited you as a guest to be entertained by us. Not exceed your invitation and record and share publicly, so that before we share already, if they feel aggrieved and they don't take action, that will happen. So I urge responsibility, I urge caution, calmness, reflect before you act, before you share.
Right.
Otherwise, it might run into legal problems.
There's legal repercussions. And finally, to you, Simon, there are couples here who are saying, what do I do if somebody's actually sending naked pictures to my wife? And this is a gentleman that's sending naked pictures to his wife. So we're living in these times where you really can't control what people do on their phones. What would be the way forward? A lot of people are saying that they're very uncomfortable with the rise of cybercrime, the rise of incidents such as those that we saw in the recent week with a politician falling prey to extortionists and his video going viral to the extent that he actually had to respond to this after the damage had been done for you. What would be the way forward? What would be the voice of reason to the society?
My voice of reason to society would be that people have to rise up and take responsibility for what they do. If you take photos or record passionate moments and store them on your phone, and then that phone leaks or that information leaks, then you are partly to blame. You have a lot of responsibility in terms of, and you need to take responsibility for your carelessness in handling that information. But
same applies to SMSs.
Yes, WhatsApp messages. Be very careful on what you write to people, because you never know the intention of the person on the receiving end. But looking at it from an extortionist point of view, is that most of the victims are the ones that give leverage to these extortionists. When you appear to be cowed, when you appear to be timid and to be very, very cautious. And I think if you take away that leverage, if somebody comes and threatens to share a video of you online, having done whatever it is that you could have done, why don't you entice them to go ahead and actually, once it comes up, take responsibility and say, look, this happened, I am sorry, I apologize to anybody that I may have hurt, and then deal with the issues that come up after that. But when you appear to be so timid and very quick to settle issues, and this is from the culture that it's a very peculiar culture, and I found it in Kenya more than in many other countries that I have been to, that people are very quick to settle things with money. They want to cover up their deeds, they want to cover up their actions with money. And so when you do that, you give these extortionists a lot of leverage. So if you want to protect yourself from them, take away that leverage, encourage them to go ahead, and of course, more to taking action, more to taking responsibility for your action, threaten to follow through with legal action.
Yeah, that's if he's not compromised, then I'm sure he's not.
He is
I would
not.
vouch for
The
you.
integrity of our voices can never be compromised.
Yeah. Or, simply just stay true to your partner. Stay true. Your parting remarks.
I think it's time we just know that with social media there's no privacy, and we need to always have common sense. And I think as Kenyans we need to also mind other people's privacy. I think it's don't just share anything. Think of the repercussions and even character assassinations. I've traveled far and wide, and it's sad that we are known as a country of bullies, and people think that it's a good thing. It's not, and I think it's time we just stand up and flag people who actually have this habit of sharing this kind of information online.
Yeah, and as Steve here said, whatever causes anxiety has
A remedy.
has a remedy. Whatever causes anxiety has a remedy. So before you pay the extortionist, actually seek some legal counsel, go to the police station. We thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time. I was joined tonight by Simon Anyona, who's a sociologist. I was also joined by Steve Ogola, who is a lawyer and a regular here on Citizen TV, also on Matters Politics. And I was also joined by Philip Ogola, who's a digital humanitarian. All these gentlemen are available on social media, I believe, in as much as you fear it. And therefore, you can get in touch with them if you need any advice on the issues that we've been talking about tonight. My name is Lillian Muli. Thanks for watching. Good night.